Today I have the sad task of doing an in memoriam on the death of Daryl Sharp. Daryl was the publisher of Inner City Books, and his selection of books, although Daryl and I never met, Daryl did grant me permission to read the books that he had published into this YouTube channel. And though we had never met or spoken, my journey with Jungian psychology has been heavily influenced by Daryl's work over the last 15 years at least. And in particular, Dr. Sharp brought to my attention the work of Edward Edinger, who has had and will have and continue to have profound influence on Christianity and all religions in the future. And I'm currently reading one of Dr. Edinger's books, The Christian Archetype, and I urge you to read it. I've already published 4 chapters and intend to do the rest of the book within the next couple of weeks. But Daryl was Daryl's labor of love was Inner City Books. And by that, he didn't mean a publishing house about the inner city. What he meant was a publishing house about the inner self in the psyche, the deepest part of our unconscious. And so Daryl was a bit of a character, and as you will see, because he wrote his own obituary. Daryl wrote his own obituary, and it's an exercise that we all should consider to do in the future as we think about our lives and try to bring meaning to our lives. And I don't know when he wrote this, but I think you'll see what I mean. Daryl Sharp, 1936 to 2019. Jungian analyst, publisher, and author Daryl Sharp has died. We will have much to say in times to come. In the meantime, we think it's fitting to share an abridged excerpt of his auto-obituary from one of his books, Another Piece of Heart. Quote, This morning, a Sunday, alone in my turret, and with nothing much in the works, an inner voice prompted me to have a try at writing my obituary. Just the bare facts. Daryl Leonard Merle Sharp, codenamed Demon, was born in Regina, Saskatchewan on January the 2nd, 1936. It was a cesarean birth. He was born a Capricorn. As a child, he tended to pout, earning him the nickname of Louis the Lip, and to this day, some relatives still call him Lou. His maternal grandparents had emigrated to Canada from Odessa in Ukraine. Daryl's mother, Marion, was a chorus girl, a flapper in the Roaring Twenties. His father, Emery, initially a brakeman on the Canadian National Railway, CNR, and later an accountant in the Royal Canadian Air Force, RCAF. Daryl had one brother, 2 years older, who bullied him from time to time, though with affection. Daryl's mother took Eros into the kitchen, where she held the family together. She always claimed that Daryl was named after the movie mogul Daryl F. Zanuck, but she couldn't account for the difference in spelling. One of Daryl's middle names came from his uncle Len, a feckless prairies boozer. The other from his the other from his father's brother, Merle, a sober accountant with the Royal Bank of Canada in Regina. The Sharp family moved frequently from one Air Force base to another across Canada, spending a year or so in each province, ending up in Greenwood, Nova Scotia, where Daryl completed his high school years at Middleton Regional High School at the head of his class. He excelled at badminton, basketball, snooker, table tennis, and had a rep as a ladies' man. He read only science fiction, publishing and distributing his own fanzine at the age of 16. His only ambition was to emulate Hugo Gernsback, publisher of Amazing Stories, and a multitude of other sci-fi magazines. Daryl obsessed with European writers like Kafka, Rilke, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, and Dostoevsky, applied to the new University of Sussex in Brighton for the postgraduate MA degree in literature and philosophy, codenamed The Modern European Mind. He was accepted and excelled, and the next year he was recommended to an exchange position at the University of Dijon in France. Daryl and Bee jumped at the chance. To finance their impending cross-channel adventure, Daryl took a job as a common laborer, rebuilding the Waterloo Bridge. His wage was 2 6 shillings and 6 pence an hour. Not much, but it added up over a few weeks, 8 hours a day plus overtime. In Dijon, Daryl planned to do a PhD thesis called In Search of the Self, drawing on the work of Soren Kierkegaard, The Religious Self, D.H. Lawrence, The Vital Self, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, The Natural Self. Rousseau's papers were archived in the University of Dijon, and Daryl's French was adequate to the task. In exchange, Daryl would teach a few weekly classes in English, and once a month would partake in the 6-course all-male dinner with wines from the Rue de Grand Cru. B did not relish being left out, but that was the protocol. Daryl was no idiot savant, though some claim he was an idiot, if not wise, to found a publishing house in 1980, catering exclusively to a niche Jungian market. However, over time, this modest enterprise, never more than 2 people, earned him almost $1 million, most of which he gave to his kids to buy their houses and to shelters for abused women. Sharp, or Razor as he was sometimes known, led a rather shadowy life alongside his meager practice as a Jungian analyst. He smoked, rolled his own, and drank scotch, both to excess. He was a notorious womanizer in his youth, flirting outrageously with other men's wives. This did not endear him to his male peers, but women adored his wit and playfulness to the extent that many a hitherto chaste lass was known to come awry in his presence. He leaves behind 2 sons, Dave and Ben, 2 daughters, Tanya Claire and Jessie Kate, and his many friends. And above his ashes, in the rose garden of Mount Pleasant Cemetery in Toronto, a bronze plaque reads, at his request, "He was kind and generous. He loved women. That was hard to write, but better sure than a rookie on the Canadian press obit desk. They'll cut it anyway. Okay. So I'll also, just for your information, also share with you the publisher profile of Inner City Books. Inner City Books was started in 1980 to promote the outstanding and practical application of the work of C.G. Jung. It is still the only publishing house in the world devoted exclusively to books written by Jungian analysts. There are now over 140 titles by over 50 authors in the series Studies in Jungian Psychology by Jungian Analysts, authoritative works on basic Jungian principles, women's study, spirituality, alchemy, relationships, dream and fairy tale interpretations, masculine psychology, midlife issues, and much more. Over 2 million books have been sold, with more than 300 editions in 27 languages, including Korean. The honorary patron of Inner City Books was Marie-Louise von Franz, the legendary acolyte of Carl Jung and a profound thinker and writer in her own right. Other well-known Jungian thinkers who have published books with Inner City Books include Marion Woodman, Edward F. Edinger, James Hollis, and John Daryl. Our printed catalog and archival newsletter, Jung at Heart, featuring reviews of books published in the series, are on this website or are available by snail mail on request. In North America, Inner City Books titles are available to individuals and booksellers only directly from Inner City Books. There are distributors in other countries as follows: Publishers Group UK and Authentic Jungian in Western Cape, South Africa. Inner City Books' home is 43 Alvin Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, M4T 2A8, Canada. The phone number of Inner City Books is 416-927-0355. And you can find Inner City Books with the URL innercitybooks.net. And so thank you for joining me today to hear my memoriam to Daryl Sharp. Thank you and goodbye for today.